The lecture hall fell silent as Instructor Vexinar clicked his mandibles together, a gesture that typically preceded his most pompous declarations. His three eyes surveyed the assembled cadets with the kind of smugness that only comes from never having been wrong, or at least never admitting it. "Predators," he announced, pausing for dramatic effect, "cannot be tamed." I shifted in my seat, my tail coiling uncomfortably beneath me. 20 cycles of xenobiology training, and Vexinar still treated us like hatchlings who'd just crawled out of the spawning pools. My name is Kirasul, and I'd heard this lecture approximately 17 times too many. "The Vraxian tiger claw," Vexinar continued, activating the holographic display. "Apex predator of the Delta Quadrant. Impossible to domesticate. The serpentine dreadmaw of Categor Prime. Untamable. The razorfang stalkers of the Void Belt. Absolutely, unequivocally, beyond any civilized control." My friend Jorak leaned over, his whisper barely audible. 10 credits, says he mentions the human incident. "No bet," I whispered back. "He always does." Right on cue. Vexinar's expression shifted to what I can only describe as theatrical disdain. "And then, of course, there are the humans," several cadets groaned. The human obsession among our instructors had reached truly ridiculous proportions since their admission to the Galactic Council 3 standard years ago. You'd think they'd personally offended every educator in the academy by simply existing. "Humans," Vexinar said, practically spitting the word, "are from a death world designated Earth. A planet so hostile, so overwhelmingly dangerous, that it produced a species of death world predators who somehow developed higher brain functions instead of the decency to just evolve proper defensive capabilities." I had to admit, the humans were fascinating. They'd shown up to the council chambers looking completely unremarkable. Soft skin, no natural armor, no venom sacs, no razor claws. They looked like prey species that had accidentally wandered into a war zone and decided to stay for the entertainment value. "They are walking contradictions," Vexinar continued, warming to his subject. "They form emotional attachments to anything with a pulse. Sometimes even things without pulses. They are simultaneously the most violent and most nurturing species we've encountered. And most disturbingly, they refuse to acknowledge the fundamental laws of predator behavior." The holographic display shifted, showing various Earth creatures. I recognized some from the xenobiology texts. Wolves, bears, large felines, reptilian predators with too many teeth. "These are Earth's apex predators," Vexinar announced. "Each one capable of killing a human with minimal effort. Each one operating on pure instinct, driven by hunger and territorial aggression. Observe." The display shifted to what appeared to be security footage. A human, female by the looks of it, stood in what seemed to be her dwelling, and beside her, lounging on a soft platform, was a massive feline predator. The beast had to weigh at least 90 kilograms, all muscle and teeth and evolutionary murder. "This," Vexinar said with barely concealed horror, "is what humans call a pet." The human, in the video, reached down and rubbed the predator's head. The creature, instead of removing her hand at the wrist, began producing a strange rumbling sound and pressed into her touch. "That's a cat," Jorak whispered. "They actually live with those things voluntarily." "The vibration you hear," Vexinar explained, "is called purring. It's how the predator lures its victims into a false sense of security before." He paused, mandibles clicking in frustration. "Actually, we have no idea why they do it. The humans claim it means the creature is content." More footage played. Humans walking alongside massive canine predators, the beasts' tails wagging. A human child, barely more than a hatchling, riding on the back of a domesticated hoofed herbivore. Another human swimming with aquatic predators that possessed multiple rows of teeth, designed specifically for tearing flesh. This is madness, Vexinar declared. This flagrant disregard for survival instinct is precisely why humans remain on probationary status within the Council. They cannot be trusted to understand basic predator dynamics. I raised my hand, which Vexinar pointedly ignored. They've even attempted to domesticate creatures from other worlds, he continued. 3 months ago, a human diplomat requested permission to interact with the Corthian razorback, a creature that had killed 5 handlers in the past cycle alone. Now, he had my attention. The Corthian razorback incident had been classified, or so I'd thought. My hand stayed up. Not now, Kirasul, Vexinar snapped. But sir, wasn't that incident sealed by Council security? His mandibles clicked irritably. The matter was resolved without casualties, which somehow makes it worse. The human in question, a female named Lucy Torres, apparently spent 6 hours in the containment facility with the razorback and emerged completely unharmed. How? Someone asked from the back. We don't know. Vexinar's voice rose to a pitch that made everyone's auditory organs flatten. The surveillance footage shows her sitting on the floor, making soft vocalizations and occasionally offering the creature bits of processed meat. By the end of the session, the razorback was resting its head in her lap like some sort of domesticated pet. The classroom erupted in disbelief. The Corthian razorback was considered one of the most aggressive species in known space. Its neurology didn't even have the capacity for social bonding. It was biologically impossible for it to form attachments. The creature had to be euthanized afterward, Vexinar said grimly. Silence fell over the room. Because it became aggressive again? Jorak ventured. No. Vexinar's expression was absolutely haunted. Because it refused to eat, it just sat at the containment door, making distressed vocalizations. The xenobiologists determined it had somehow imprinted on the human. They called it separation anxiety. The razorback died of stress 3 days later, when Lucy Torres left the station to return to Earth. Nobody knew what to say to that. This is why humans are dangerous, Vexinar continued. His voice softer now, almost frightened. They don't just tame predators. They make them love them. They turn killers into companions, and somehow, impossibly, the predators choose this. They choose humans over their own survival instincts. The lecture hall remained quiet. I'd heard rumors about human-animal bonding, sure. Everyone had. They were the galaxy's weird, soft species who insisted on keeping predators in their homes and treating them like family members. But hearing the razorback story, a classified incident involving a creature that shouldn't have been capable of attachment, that was different. That was terrifying. Vexinar deactivated the display. Your assignment, this cycle, is to write an analysis of why predator domestication is biologically impossible for any species except humans. 5,000 words. Due next rotation. Class dismissed. As we filed out, Jorak grabbed my arm. You thinking what I'm thinking? That our instructor is genuinely scared of humans? That, and also that we need to meet one. Like, actually talk to one. I clicked my tongue thoughtfully. There's that human exchange student in the cultural studies program. I've seen her in the commissary. Perfect. Jorak's eyes gleamed with that particular combination of curiosity and terrible decision-making that had gotten us into trouble more times than I could. Count. Let's go ask her about the whole predator thing. Right now? You have something better to do? Write Vexinar's essay about how humans are scary? He had a point. We found the human in the station's observation deck, of all places. She stood at the viewport, watching the stars slide past as the Academy station maintained its orbit around the training moon. She was shorter than I'd expected, barely reaching my shoulder, with dark skin and intricate braids pulled back from her face. Her name badge read, Maya Okafor, Cultural Exchange Program. Excuse me, I started, then realized I had absolutely no idea how to phrase this question. Are you the human? She turned, and I was struck by how expressive her face was. Humans had this remarkable mobility in their facial features, constantly broadcasting their emotions in tiny movements. Right now, she looked amused. One of them, she said, her voice warm. Maya. You are? Kira Sul. This is Jorak. We just came from Instructor Vex Inar's xenobiology lecture. Ah. Her expression shifted to something between understanding and exasperation. Let me guess. The one about how predators can't be tamed and humans are insane for trying? Pretty much exactly that. Maya laughed. A sound that was somehow both sharp and melodious. I've heard about that lecture. It's apparently a station favorite. What did you want to know? Jorak jumped in before I could stop him. Is it true? Did you really domesticate a Corthian razorback? That wasn't me, that was Lucy Torres. And domesticated is a strong word. We just, hung out. The creature imprinted on her, I said. It died when she left. Maya's expression fell, genuine sadness crossing her features. Yeah, that was rough. Lucy took it really hard. She'd asked to take it back to Earth, but council regulations wouldn't allow it. She still has nightmares about leaving it behind. But how? Jorak pressed. How did you, whatever. How did a human get an apex predator to just calm down and become friendly? Maya considered the question, turning back to the viewport. It's not really about taming them. That's what everyone gets wrong. It's about trust. Trust, I repeated flatly. You trust a creature designed by evolution to kill you? No? Well, yes, but that's not the point. She struggled for words. Look, on Earth, humans weren't always the dominant species. For most of our evolutionary history, we were prey. We were the things that got eaten by bigger, stronger, faster predators. So you developed defenses, Jorak said. Natural weapons. No. Maya held up her hands, wiggling her fingers. We developed these. Opposable thumbs. Tools. But more importantly, we developed social bonds. Humans are pack animals. We survive because we work together, because we form connections, because we understand that cooperation beats competition in the long run. What does that have to do with predators? Everything. She smiled. See, at some point in our history, we started noticing that some predators also operated on pack dynamics. Wolves, for example. They hunt in groups. They have social hierarchies. They care for their young and their weak. And humans thought, hey, we do that too. Maybe we're not so different. That's insane, I said. Probably, Maya agreed cheerfully. But it worked. We offered wolves food, shelter, protection. They offered us better hunting skills, warning systems, companionship. It was a fair trade. Over thousands of years, we bred them to enhance the traits we liked. Loyalty, gentleness with children, cooperation. Now we have dogs. The canine predators in the videos, Jorak said. Those are descended from wild wolves? Yep. And cats, despite what they'd like you to believe, kind of domesticated themselves. They figured out that hanging around human settlements meant easy food from our grain stores attracting rodents. We figured out that having cats around meant fewer pests. Mutual benefit. I processed this information, trying to reconcile it with everything Vex Einar had taught us. But the razorback, That wasn't a social species. It was a solitary hunter. Maya's expression turned thoughtful. True. But even solitary predators understand certain things. They understand body language. They understand that some creatures are threats, and some aren't. Lucy spent the first 2 hours just sitting there, not making eye contact, not approaching, just existing in the same space. She let the razorback decide if she was dangerous. And it decided she wasn't? Eventually. Then she started offering food. No strings attached. Just leaving it nearby and backing away. The razorback was curious. You could see it in the footage. This tiny, soft creature that smelled like prey, but didn't act like prey. It was interesting. Interesting enough to form a bond that killed it, I said, more harshly than I intended. Maya flinched. Yeah, that's the hard part. Humans bond with everything. It's our superpower and our curse. We form attachments to things that can't or shouldn't reciprocate, and sometimes those attachments hurt. A moment of silence stretched between us. Outside the viewport, a supply ship docked with the station, its lights blinking in the darkness. Your instructor is right about one thing, Maya said quietly. Predators can't be tamed. Not really. What we do isn't taming. It's relationship building. It's mutual respect. And yeah, sometimes it goes wrong. Sometimes the predator's instincts take over. Sometimes people get hurt or killed. Then why do it? Jorak asked. Maya turned to face us fully, and there was something fierce in her expression. Because the alternative is living in fear of everything. Because isolation is its own kind of death. Because we looked at the creatures that could kill us and thought, what if they didn't have to be our enemies? What if they could be our friends? She paused, then added with a slight smile, also, have you ever petted a cat? It's incredibly satisfying. Despite everything, I found myself laughing. There was something simultaneously admirable and absolutely ridiculous about the human mindset. They'd taken the most dangerous creatures on their planet and turned them into companions through sheer stubborn optimism and an apparently pathological need to befriend everything. Can I ask you something? Maya said. What predators does your world have? The Sarathi stalkers, I replied. 6-legged ambush predators. Very territorial, very aggressive. Have you ever tried talking to one? I stared at her. They don't have vocal cords capable of speech. Neither do cats, Maya pointed out. But we communicate just fine. Body language, tone, patience. You'd be surprised what you can say without words. You're suggesting I attempt to befriend a Sarathi stalker. I'm suggesting that maybe your instructor is asking the wrong question. It's not about whether predators can be tamed. It's about whether different species can find common ground despite their differences. Jorak nudged me. That's actually pretty profound. It's actually pretty terrifying, I countered. Maya grinned. Want me to show you? And that's how, 3 hours later, I found myself standing outside the xenobiology lab's specimen containment area, watching a human negotiate with a very angry, very bitey, very much not interested in friendship Sarathi stalker that Vexinar kept for demonstration purposes. This is a terrible idea, I whispered to Jorak. The worst, he agreed, but neither of us left. Maya had changed into what she called practical clothes, which apparently meant thick fabric covering her arms and legs. She'd also brought a container of something that smelled distinctly like processed meat. Okay, she said, studying the stalker through the transparent barrier. First rule: respect. This creature doesn't know me, doesn't trust me, and has every right to be aggressive. I'm not here to change that. I'm here to offer an alternative. An alternative to trying to eat you? I asked. an alternative to seeing every interaction as a threat. She activated the containment door override, and both Jorak and I instinctively stepped back. "Maya," I started, but she was already inside. The Sarathi stalker's 6 legs tensed. Its sensory organs tracked Maya's movement, hackles rising along its segmented spine. A low hiss emanated from its breathing vents, a sound that translated roughly to leave or become food. Maya sat down. Just sat down, cross-legged, about 3 meters from the creature. She didn't look at it directly, didn't make any threatening gestures. She simply existed in the space, her breathing slow and even. The stalker hissed again, louder this time. Maya didn't react. Minutes passed. My hearts were pounding so hard I was certain everyone could hear them. The stalker circled, trying to get a better angle on this strange intruder. Maya turned slightly, never presenting her back, but never challenging the creature's approach either. More time passed. Then, slowly, carefully, Maya reached into her container and tossed a piece of meat toward the stalker. Not at it, just near it. The creature pounced on the food, tearing it apart with practiced efficiency. "Good," Maya said softly. "That's good. See? I'm not a threat. Just a weird alien with snacks." She tossed another piece, this time a bit closer to herself. The stalker hesitated, then approached, snatched the food, and retreated. Third piece. Even closer. Fourth piece. By the 10th piece, the Sarathi stalker was eating less than a meter from Maya's position. Its hackles had lowered. The aggressive hissing had stopped. It watched her with what I could only describe as wary curiosity. "Hey there," Maya said, still not making eye contact. "You're pretty magnificent. You know that? Look at you. Perfect hunter. Beautiful design." The stalker tilted its head, a gesture I'd never seen one make before. "I'm not going to hurt you," Maya continued in that same soft tone. "I know this place is probably pretty boring. Contained, no real hunting, same food every day. That's got to be frustrating. Was she seriously having a conversation with a Sarathi stalker? Apparently yes, and more impossibly, the stalker seemed to be listening. "If it were up to me," Maya said, "you'd be out there, doing what you do best. Hunting, stalking, living your best predator life. But since we're both stuck here for now, what do you say we make the best of it?" She held out a piece of meat in her hand, not throwing it this time, just offering it. The stalker stared at her hand, then at her face, then back at her hand. It approached. Closer. Closer still. And then, with a delicacy I didn't know the species possessed, it took the meat from Maya's palm, using its front appendages rather than its teeth. "There we go," Maya breathed. "See? We can be civilized about this." The stalker ate the meat, then did something that made my brain short-circuit. It sat down, right there, less than half a meter from Maya, and sat down like it was waiting for something. Maya smiled and offered another piece. For the next 20 minutes, we watched a human and a Sarathi stalker share a meal in companionable silence. By the end, the creature was close enough that Maya risked reaching out, very slowly, and touching its armored hide. The stalker didn't attack. It leaned into the touch. "Instructor Vex Inar," Jorak said suddenly, his voice strangled. I turned to find our instructor standing behind us, all 3 of his eyes wide with horror and something that might have been grudging respect. "What?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Is that human doing to my demonstration specimen? Making a friend?" I offered, weakly. Vexinar watched as Maya continued to pet the Sarathi stalker, the creature's eyes half closed in what looked disturbingly like contentment. "This is impossible," he muttered. This violates at least 7 principles of xenobiology. That species doesn't have the neural architecture for social bonding. It's a solitary ambush predator. It should have attacked immediately. Maybe, I said carefully. Your principles are incomplete. Or maybe, Jorak added, humans are just built different. Maya stood up slowly, stepping back from the stalker. The creature watched her go, making a sound I'd never heard from its species before. Something almost questioning, almost sad. I'll be back tomorrow, Maya told it. Same time. We can hang out again if you want. The stalker's head followed her movement all the way to the containment door. When Maya emerged, she was grinning. So, that was fun. Vex Inar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep agitation. Human? Maya? Okafor. What you just did was extraordinarily dangerous and violated approximately 14 station safety protocols. Probably. Maya agreed. That creature could have killed you. Could have. Didn't. You had no weapons, no defensive equipment, didn't need them. Vex Inar's breathing vents flared. How? How did you pacify an apex predator using nothing but processed meat and soft words? Maya's expression turned serious. Instructor, with respect, I didn't pacify anything. That stalker is still a predator. It's still dangerous. It could still absolutely shred me if it decided to. What I did was offer it a choice. Fight or talk. Threat or friend. And it chose friend, at least for today. That should not be possible. And yet, Maya gestured back toward the containment area, where the stalker still sat, watching the door where she'd left. Vex Inar was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I need to revise my lecture. Or maybe, Maya suggested gently, you need to revise your assumptions about what predators are capable of when given the chance. With that, she nodded to us and walked away, leaving 3 very confused aliens staring after her. Jorak was the first to speak. I think humans might actually be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Because they tame predators? Vex Inar asked. No, I said, understanding suddenly. Because they make us question everything we thought we knew about. The nature of violence, survival, and connection. They make us wonder if we've been doing it wrong this whole time. Vex Inar's mandibles clicked one final time. Class tomorrow is cancelled. I have a lot of thinking to do. As he walked away, Jorak turned to me. So, about that essay on why predator domestication is impossible? I laughed. I think we might need to take a different approach. Behind us, through the containment barrier, the Sarathi stalker remained at the door, waiting for the strange, soft human to return and prove, once again, that everything we thought we knew about predators was somehow, impossibly, incomplete. And somewhere on that observation deck, Maya Okafor was probably planning her next impossible act of interspecies friendship, because apparently, that's just what humans do. They see the monsters, the killers, the creatures that should be enemies, and they ask one simple, terrifying question. Want to be friends instead? The universe, it seemed, was still trying to figure out how to answer. The next rotation began with what I can only describe as organized chaos. Word had spread about Maya's success with the Sarathi stalker, and suddenly everyone wanted to witness the impossible. Human, who could apparently have a pleasant conversation with anything possessing teeth. The observation area outside the xenobiology lab was packed with students, faculty, and even a few maintenance workers who'd abandoned their posts to watch. Station security had shown up twice already to clear the corridors, and twice the crowd had simply reformed 5 minutes later. This is absurd, I muttered, trying to push through the press of bodies. This is history, Jorak corrected, practically vibrating with excitement. Nobody's ever successfully approached a Sarathi stalker without sedatives or force fields. Maya did it yesterday. Exactly my point. We finally squeezed close enough to see into the Kandal containment area. Maya was already inside, sitting in the same spot as before. The stalker had positioned itself in the exact same location too, barely a meter away, watching her with those multifaceted eyes that usually signaled imminent violence. Today, though, Maya had brought something new. A small spherical object that she rolled gently across the floor. The stalker's head tracked the movement instantly, predatory instincts activating. Before anyone could panic, the creature pounced, all 6 legs coordinating in a display of perfect hunting efficiency. It caught the sphere, examined it briefly, then looked back at Maya with what I was learning to recognize as confusion. Maya rolled another sphere. The stalker pounced again. Is she playing with it? Someone behind me whispered, horrified. I think the technical term is enrichment, Jorak said. Humans do it with their domestic predators. Keeps them mentally stimulated. That's not a domestic predator. That's a Sarathi stalker. Not anymore, I said quietly, watching the creature chase its third sphere with something that looked disturbingly like enthusiasm. Look at it. When's the last time you saw a stalker move like that? Playful instead of aggressive? The answer was never. In all the documented observations of Sarathi stalker behavior, playfulness had never been recorded. They hunted, they ate, they defended territory, they mated. They didn't play. Except apparently they did. When given the opportunity and the right companion, Maya produced something else from her pack. A length of fabric attached to a stick. She dragged it across the floor, and the stalker's entire body tensed with focus. It crouched low, hindquarters wiggling in a movement that would have been comical if the creature wasn't capable of disemboweling most species in under 3 seconds. Then, it leaped. The stalker tackled the fabric toy with the same intensity it would use on actual prey, rolling across the floor in a tangle of legs and synthetic material. Maya laughed, a sound of pure delight that somehow cut through the tension in the observation area. Okay, she said, gently extracting the toy. Your turn to chase. She tossed one of the spheres across the containment area. The stalker bolted after it, moving with liquid grace. When it brought the sphere back and dropped it near Maya's feet, I heard at least a dozen people gasp. It's retrieving. Vexinar's voice came from somewhere to my left. He'd apparently joined the crowd at some point. Sarathi stalkers don't have retrieving instincts. They're ambush predators, not pack hunters. This makes no biological sense. Maybe it makes social sense, I suggested. That's not a thing. It is for humans. We watched for another 30 minutes as Maya continued her session with the stalker. She'd introduced what she called trust exercises, which involved her moving around the containment area while the creature followed, maintaining a respectful distance. When Maya sat down, the stalker sat. When Maya stood, the stalker stood. They were synchronizing, moving like a unit rather than predator and prey. Finally, Maya did something that made my blood run cold. She turned her back on the stalker completely, presenting her vulnerable spine and neck to a creature designed specifically to exploit such weaknesses. The stalker approached from behind, silent on its padded feet. Someone in the crowd made a strangled noise. The stalker reached Maya, and then, instead of attacking, it simply sat beside her, close enough that its armored hide pressed against her back, close enough that one wrong move could be fatal. Maya reached back slowly and rested her hand on the stalker's head. Good, she said softly. You're such a good friend. Yes, you are. Vexinar made a sound like a dying engine. She's using pack bonding vocalizations. She's treating an apex predator like it's a domesticated companion animal. And it's working, Jorak pointed out. That's what terrifies me. The session ended with Maya giving the toner, Stalker, a final scratch behind its sensory organs before leaving the containment area. As she emerged, the crowd erupted with questions, all talking over each other in a dozen different languages. How did you know it wouldn't attack? What's your secret? Can you teach us? Is this some kind of human mental manipulation? Maya held up her hands, calling for quiet. Everyone, please. There's no secret. There's no manipulation. It's just patience, respect, and the willingness to see past the teeth to the thinking creature underneath. But Sarathi stalkers aren't social creatures, someone protested. They aren't social with each other, Maya corrected. That doesn't mean they can't be social with other species. Maybe they just never had the opportunity before. Maybe nobody ever tried to see them as anything other than dangerous. A voice cut through the murmuring. I have a challenge for you, human. The crowd parted, revealing Commander Thrace, head of station security. She was a Valorian, all scales and military bearing, with a reputation for being utterly fearless and completely humorless. Commander, Maya said carefully, you've demonstrated impressive skill with the Stalker, Thrace continued, a creature we've studied extensively, whose behavior patterns are well documented. I wonder how you'd fare with something we understand less completely. What did you have in mind? Thrace's smile was not reassuring. 3 days ago, we intercepted a vessel transporting illegal specimens for black market sale. Among the creatures recovered was something the smugglers called a void render. We have no reliable data on the species, no established protocols for containment, and no idea how to safely interact with it. And you want me to try? Maya's voice was steady, but I caught the slight tension in her shoulders. I want to see if your methods work on a completely unknown predator. One without any documented behavior patterns. One that's injured, frightened, and has already attacked 3 of my security personnel. The crowd fell silent. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Show me. The journey to the high-security containment level took 15 minutes by transit lift. Thrace had limited the group to essential personnel only, which apparently included Maya, myself, Jorak, Vexinar, and a medical team standing by just in case everything went catastrophically wrong. The containment cell for the Void Render was reinforced durasteel, designed to hold the most dangerous specimens in the galaxy. Through the observation window, we could see the creature, and it was like nothing I'd ever encountered. Imagine if someone had taken the concept of shadow and given it physical form, then added too many joints and a distinctly hostile attitude. The Void Render was roughly the size of a large human, but its body seemed to shift and flow like liquid darkness contained in a vaguely bipedal shape. Multiple limbs extended from its core, each tipped with claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. Its head, if you could call it that, featured a vertical mouth filled with crystalline teeth that caught the light in disturbing ways, and it was clearly in pain. One of its limbs hung at an odd angle, and dark fluid leaked from several wounds across its body. The smugglers kept it in stasis without proper life support, Thrace explained. By the time we recovered it, the damage was extensive. Our medical team can't treat it because it attacks anyone who approaches. We're considering euthanasia as the humane option. Maya pressed her hand against the observation window, studying the creature. It's scared. It's dangerous, Thrace countered. It can be both. Maya turned to face the commander. If I do this, I need complete authority in that room. No one tries to sedate it. No one interrupts. No one rushes in to save me if things look bad. The moment we introduce fear or aggression into the situation, any chance of connection is lost. You could die. Yes. And you're willing to take that risk for a creature we know nothing about? Maya's expression was fierce. Every well. I'm willing to take that risk for a thinking being that's hurt and alone, and probably convinced the entire universe wants it dead. Wouldn't you want someone to try, if you were in there? Thrace studied Maya for a long moment, then nodded. Your death will be noted as voluntary in the station logs. How comforting. The preparation took another 20 minutes. Maya changed into the same protective clothing she'd worn for the stalker session. Though we all knew it would provide approximately zero defense against those crystalline teeth. She filled a bag with various food items, medical supplies, and several soft blankets that seemed utterly inadequate for the situation. Last chance to back out, I told her as she prepared to enter the containment cell. Maya smiled. Where's the fun in that? Maya, we don't know anything about this species. We don't know how it communicates, what it eats, what it considers threatening. You're going in completely blind. That's true for every first contact situation, Maya pointed out. The only difference is usually we're meeting species that haven't been traumatized by smugglers and locked in a cage while bleeding. She had a point, though I desperately wished she didn't. The containment door opened with a hydraulic hiss. Maya stepped inside, the bag slung over her shoulder, moving with careful deliberation. Behind her, the door sealed with a finality that made my stomach clench. The Void Render's attention snapped to her immediately. Its multiple limbs splayed out in a defensive posture, and that vertical mouth opened to reveal even more teeth than I'd initially counted. A sound emerged from somewhere in its chest, a resonance that seemed to vibrate through the observation window and directly into my bones. Maya stopped moving. She didn't sit down this time, probably because sudden movement might be interpreted as a threat. She just stood there, 3 meters from a wounded, terrified predator whose species name literally included the word render. Hello? She said quietly. I know you're hurt. I know you're scared. I'm not here to hurt you more. The Void Render's mouth closed slightly, though it remained in its defensive stance. I'm going to move now, Maya continued in that same soft tone, very slowly. I'm going to sit down, and then I'm going to stay very still. Is that okay? Obviously, the creature didn't answer. But Maya waited several seconds anyway, as if giving it time to process and respond in whatever way it could. Then she lowered herself to the floor, cross-legged, hands visible and empty. The Void Render watched. Its limbs remained splayed, but the aggressive posture had eased fractionally. Minutes passed. 5, 10, 15. Maya didn't move, didn't speak. Just breathed slowly and evenly, while the Void Render gradually began to accept her presence. At the 20-minute mark, the creature shifted. It pulled its injured limb closer to its body, and the sound it made changed from aggressive resonance to something higher-pitched. Pain, I realized. It was expressing pain. I know, Maya said. That looks like it really hurts. I have medical supplies, if you'll let me help. But only if you want. I won't force anything. The Void Render tilted its head, a gesture that seemed almost curious. Maya reached very slowly into her bag and pulled out a medical scanner. This is just a diagnostic tool. It won't hurt. It just helps me understand what's wrong so I can fix it. May I? She activated the scanner, letting it hum softly. The Void Render flinched at the sound, limbs tensing again. It's okay, Maya soothed. Just a noise. Nothing scary. She let the scanner run for another minute, giving the creature time to realize it wasn't a threat, then deactivated it and set it aside. Your arm is fractured, she said, reading the display. And you have several lacerations that are getting infected. Without treatment, you're going to get a lot sicker. The Void Render made a low sound. Something that might have been acknowledgement or might have been warning. Hard to tell with an unknown species. I'm going to move closer now, Maya announced. Just a little bit. I need to be near you to help with the medical stuff. I'm going to scoot forward, very slowly. Tell me if I should stop. She began moving, shifting her position in tiny increments. The Void Render watched every motion, its multiple eyes tracking her progress. When Maya had closed the distance by half, the creature made a sharp sound and displayed its teeth. Maya stopped immediately. Okay, that's far enough for now. I understand. We'll stay here. From her current position, she could just barely reach the Void Render if she extended her arm fully. Not ideal for medical treatment, but possible if the creature cooperated. I'm going to pull out some food, Maya said. You probably haven't eaten properly in days. The smugglers weren't exactly concerned with your dietary needs. She produced several containers from her bag, opening them one at a time. Each contained different types of food. Processed meat, similar to what she'd used with the stalker, crystalline supplements, liquid nutrients, even some fruit. I don't know what your species eats, Maya admitted. So, I brought options. She slid the containers forward, pushing them within the Void Render's reach, then pulled her hands back to show she wasn't trying to take anything. The Void Render stared at the food for a long moment. Then, it reached out with one of its uninjured limbs and tentatively touched the container of crystalline supplements. It picked up a piece, examined it, and placed it in its mouth. The reaction was immediate. The creature's entire body seemed to relax, and it made a sound that was unmistakably pleased. It consumed the rest of the supplements rapidly, then moved to the liquid nutrients. Good choice, Maya said, smiling. Those supplements should help with the healing process. The liquid, too. You're probably dehydrated. While the Void Render ate, Maya slowly prepared medical supplies. Bandages, antiseptic, a portable bone knitter for the fractured limb. She laid everything out where the creature could see it, explaining each item as she went. This is for cleaning wounds. It stings a little, but it prevents infection. This wraps around injuries to keep them protected. And this, she held up the bone knitter, helps broken bones heal faster. It feels warm when it's working, but not painful. The Void Render had finished eating and was watching Maya with what seemed like less hostility and more interest. Here's the deal, Maya said. I need to touch you to treat these injuries. I know that's probably the last thing you want right now. You've been grabbed and poked and hurt by beings who didn't care about your well-being. I'm asking you to trust that I'm different. She extended her hand slowly, palm up, not reaching toward the creature but offering. You decide, she said simply. If you want help, come to me. The silence stretched out. Behind the observation window, I realized I'd been holding my breath. Beside me, Vexinar was muttering calculations under his breath, probably trying to determine the statistical probability of Maya surviving the next 5 minutes. The Void Render looked at Maya's extended hand, then at the medical supplies, then back at Maya's face. And those multiple eyes seemed to be searching for something. Some sign of intent or deception. Whatever it saw must have satisfied it, because slowly, carefully, the creature moved forward. It crossed the distance between them, navigating around the food containers until it was close enough to touch. Then it placed its uninjured limb in Maya's hand. The sound I made was definitely not dignified, but I wasn't alone. Half the observation room gasped in unison. Thank you, Maya whispered. Thank you for trusting me. What followed was the most nerve-wracking hour of my life. Maya worked with painstaking care, cleaning the Void Render's wounds while maintaining a steady stream of gentle narration. The creature flinched occasionally, especially when the antiseptic stung, but it didn't pull away. It watched Maya's every movement, those crystalline teeth visible but not threatening. The bone knitter was the hardest part. Maya had to wrap it around the fractured limb and activate it, which meant touching the injury directly. The void render made a sound of distress when she first made contact, but Maya kept talking, kept explaining, kept her movements gentle and deliberate. "Almost done," she promised. "Just a few more seconds. You're doing so well. You're incredibly brave." When the bone knitter finished its cycle and powered down, Maya removed it carefully and wrapped the limb in a support bandage. The void render flexed its arm experimentally, testing the repair, then made a sound that I could only interpret as surprise and relief. "Better?" Maya asked. The creature responded by doing something that made everyone in the observation room freeze. It reached out with multiple limbs and very gently wrapped them around Maya in what was unmistakably an embrace. Maya, to her credit, didn't panic. She just slowly brought her own arms up and returned the gesture. "You're welcome," she said softly. "You're going to be okay now." They stayed like that for several minutes, a human and an unknown predator holding each other in the middle of a containment cell, and if anyone had told me a week ago that I'd witness such a scene, I would have questioned their mental stability. Eventually, Maya pulled back gently. "I need to go, now, but I'll come back tomorrow to check on you. We'll figure out what to do next, okay? No more cages, no more pain. I promise." The void render released her, though it made a questioning sound. "I'll come back," Maya repeated firmly. "I promise." She gathered her supplies, leaving the remaining food and water within the creature's reach, and walked to the containment door. The void render followed her movement but didn't approach. As the door opened and Maya stepped through, the creature settled into a resting position, its multiple eyes tracking her until the door sealed. The moment Maya was clear, the observation room erupted. Everyone spoke at once, throwing questions and observations and demands for explanation. Commander Thrace was shouting orders to her security team. Vexinar was having what looked like an existential crisis, and Jorak was jumping up and down while yelling something about scientific paradigms shifting. Maya just leaned against the wall, looking exhausted and exhilarated in equal measure. I pushed through the crowd to reach her. That was the most reckless, insane, incredible thing I've ever witnessed. "Thanks, I think. How did you know it would work?" Maya shrugged. "I didn't, but I knew that creature was suffering, and I knew that if I was hurt and scared and alone, I'd want someone to try. Even if it was risky, even if it seemed impossible. You could have died, but I didn't." Her smile was tired, but genuine, and now that creature has a chance at healing instead of being put down like a dangerous animal. That seems worth the risk. Before I could respond, Commander Thrace appeared, her expression unreadable. "Human Maya Okafor, what you just accomplished should not have been possible. I'm getting that a lot lately. Our xenobiology experts have no framework for what occurred in that containment cell. You established communication and trust with a completely unknown species in under 2 hours. Species we've studied for decades require years of careful research before we attempt any kind of direct interaction." Maya considered this. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe spending years studying something as a specimen instead of approaching it as a potential friend is why it takes so long. Thrace was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I'm recommending you for an official position as First Contact Specialist. I'm a student. You're a human, which, as we're rapidly discovering, means you possess skills the rest of the galaxy desperately needs." Thrace's expression softened slightly. "We've been doing first contact wrong for centuries. We approach new species with caution, with weapons ready, with the assumption that difference means danger. You approach them with snacks and kind words, and the belief that friendship is possible. Your way seems to work better." Maya laughed. "I just like making friends." The galaxy could use more beings who think like you. Over the next several days, Maya's reputation spread beyond the station. The footage of her sessions with the Sarathi Stalker and the Void Render went viral across the communications network. Scientists, diplomats, and random civilians all wanted to know more about the human approach to predator interaction. Vex Inar completely revised his curriculum. His new lecture was titled Reconsidering Predator Dynamics Through Human Methodologies, which was significantly less pompous than his previous material. He'd even asked Maya to guest lecture, which resulted in a packed auditorium and at least 3 diplomatic incidents when ambassadors from predatory species demanded to know why nobody had tried the friendship approach with their ancestors before enslaving or exterminating them. That opened up an entirely different conversation about historical first contact protocols and whether the galaxy owed several species a massive apology. But that's a story for another time. As for me and Jorak, we'd started our own research project. With Maya's guidance, we were attempting to document successful interaction techniques with various predator species. The working title was, Yes, We Can All Get Along, a practical guide to interspecies friendship. Jorak insisted on adding, Humans were right and we were wrong, as a subtitle, but I vetoed that for being too on the nose. The Void Render, whom Maya had named Whisper for the soft sounds it made when content, was eventually cleared for release from containment. Extensive medical scans confirmed the creature was non-aggressive when not threatened or in pain. The Council granted Maya permission to serve as Whisper's guardian while they researched the species' homeworld and worked to return it safely. Which meant Maya now had a shadow following her around the station, a being of liquid darkness and crystalline teeth who had apparently decided that the small human was the best thing that had ever happened to it. Watching them walk together through the station corridors, Whisper's multiple limbs moving in sync with Maya's steps, had become such a common sight that people barely reacted anymore. Well, new arrivals still panicked, but everyone else had adapted. The Sarathi Stalker, meanwhile, had become something of a station mascot. Maya had convinced the administration to create a larger, more enriching habitat for it, and she visited daily for what she called training sessions, but what everyone else recognized as just 2 friends hanging out. 3 months after that first lecture, where Vex Inar had declared predators impossible to tame, I found myself back in the observation deck where I'd first talked to Maya. She was there again, Whisper draped across one of the benches beside her like a particularly alarming pet. "Hey," I said, settling into a seat across from them. "Hey yourself." Maya scratched behind one of Whisper's sensory organs, and the creature made its namesake sound. "I've been thinking about what you said, about how it's not taming, it's relationship building." "Yeah? I think I get it now. You don't try to change what they are. You just give them space to be something more than just their survival instincts." Maya smiled. "Every species, every being, is more complex than we give them credit for. Predators aren't just mindless killing machines. They're thinking creatures capable of choice, of growth, of connection. They just need someone willing to see past the teeth. Humans really are something special," I said. "We're really not," Maya countered. "We're just optimistic enough to try the impossible and stubborn enough not to give up when it gets hard. Anyone could do what I do. They just have to believe it's worth attempting." Whisper made an agreeable sound and shifted position to rest its head in Maya's lap. "So," I said, grinning, "want to help me write a paper completely debunking everything xenobiology thought it knew about predator behavior?" "Absolutely," Maya said, "but I want my name listed as Professional Friend Maker in the author credits. Deal." Outside the viewport, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the small revolutions happening aboard our station. But inside, things had changed. The impossible had become possible. The dangerous had become friends. And the entire galaxy was slowly, reluctantly, beginning to understand that maybe, just maybe, humans had figured out something the rest of us had missed. Predators couldn't be tamed. That much was still true. But they could choose. They could connect. They could decide that maybe, for once, they didn't have to be alone in their strength. All it took was someone brave enough to sit down, offer some snacks, and ask the simplest, most powerful question in the universe. Want to be friends? And somehow, impossibly, the answer kept being yes.